Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever wondered how the leaders of a really big union actually get chosen? Well, today we're pulling back the curtain on the official election rules for the IAM's District 142.
So, we're zooming in on IAM District 142. This is a body that represents thousands of skilled workers all across the country. And the leaders here, they make some incredibly important decisions that affect countless careers and livelihoods.
So, how do you make sure those leaders are chosen fairly? The answer lies in a really detailed step-by-step process that's designed to make sure every single member's voice can be heard and the whole election is democratic and totally transparent. So what we're going to do in this explainer is walk through the official rulebook. We're going to see exactly how you can run for office, how you can campaign, and of course, how you can vote, all based on the union's own official documents. Okay, first things first. Let's look at the foundational rules. You know, every fair election needs a solid framework. It's like the rules of the game. And in this case, that framework is built on both the union's own internal rules and federal law. These elections are really governed by two main pillars. You've got the union's own constitution, and then you have this key piece of federal law, the LMRDA. This act is basically the bedrock that guarantees fundamental rights, like using a secret ballot and having fair, open nomination procedures. All right, let's get into it. Because, the very first question for anyone who's interested in participating, whether as a voter or a candidate, is pretty simple. Am I eligible? And you can see a pretty big difference right away. To vote, the requirement is pretty straightforward. You just need to be a member in good standing. Basically, that just means your union dues are all paid up. But to actually run for office, well, the bar is set a lot higher. This is to make sure candidates have proven their commitment and experience. We're talking a full year of membership, recent work in the trade, and a clean record on dues. So let's say you meet all those requirements. You're eligible to run. That's great. But how do you actually get your name onto that final election ballot? Well, this isn't something that happens overnight. The whole process plays out over more than half a year. It kicks off way back in May with a call for nominations, and it all culminates on Election Day in December. Every date you see here represents a critical step for potential candidates. Yeah, getting on the ballot isn't as simple as just throwing your hat in the ring. It's a formal, multi-stage process. First, you have to be nominated by a fellow member. Then, you have to win the endorsement vote inside your own home lodge. But even that isn't enough to get you on the final ballot. And here it is. This is the crucial hurdle. To become an official candidate for a district-level office, it's not enough just to be popular at home. You have to prove you have broad support from at least 4 different local lodges all across the district. This is a huge deal because it ensures candidates represent a wide range of members, not just one single group. Okay, so you did it. You jumped through all the hoops, you got your endorsements, and your name is officially on the ballot. Now it's time to campaign. But as you can probably guess, there are some pretty strict rules to make sure it's a fair race for everyone. This one is the absolute cornerstone of fair campaigning, and it comes directly from federal law. You cannot, and I mean cannot, use any union or company resources to promote your candidacy. No money, no equipment, no supplies. Period. The whole point of these rules is to prevent anyone from getting an unfair advantage. The union has to treat every candidate the same. All campaign flyers and materials have to be paid for by the candidate personally, and all campaigning has to be done on your own time. It all comes down to equal access and personal responsibility. All right, so we've talked about who can run and how they campaign. Now let's get to the heart of any election, the vote itself. How does the union make sure every eligible member can actually make their voice heard? Well, let's be honest. A lot of members have demanding schedules or live pretty far from polling places. The union recognizes that, so they have a well-defined process for members to vote using an absentee ballot. And here are the 8 official reasons you can request one. They really cover just about everything, from living too far away and being stuck at work to being sick or even on military duty. The whole goal is to make sure your personal circumstances don't stop you from casting your vote. So who's in charge of making sure this whole process is fair and impartial? Well, that's the job of appointed officials called tellers. You can think of them as the referees of the election. They're responsible for everything from checking voter eligibility and inspecting the ballot box to making sure the final count is done properly. On election day itself, there are several safeguards in place to keep things transparent. There's a strict campaign-free zone within 50 feet of the voting area, so nobody feels pressured. And this is really important. Each candidate has the right to have one observer there at the polls and at the vote count, watching everything to make sure it's all being done by the book. So the polls are closed, now what? Well, a really meticulous process begins to count up all the votes from all the different local lodges and officially declare a winner. Winning is pretty straightforward. It's a simple plurality system, which just means the person who gets the most votes wins, even if it's not more than 50%. The rules even have a plan for the extremely rare case of a perfect tie. First, there's a mandatory recount. If it's still tied after that, the winner is actually decided by a coin toss. But the rules don't just cover what happens when things go right. They also lay out a clear path for what happens if a member believes those rules were broken. Any member has the right to file a protest, but you have to follow the procedure. It has to be in writing, and you have to file it within a strict 30-day deadline of the event you're protesting. Ultimately, the final decision rests with the international president. So when you look at all of this, from eligibility and nominations to campaigning and counting the votes, it provides the essential foundation for a fair election. But here's the thing. A democracy is only as strong as the members who choose to get informed, stand up, and actually participate in it.